Greetings. Once again, we are back. Previous video, we were looking at I started looking on the fifth main subtopic under this topic, research report, and in that video, we stopped when we are going to look at the types of qualitative research design. So it's what we're going to look at in this video. So when we come to types of qualitative research designs, qualitative designs are less strictly defined, which is not the same with quantitative. So this approach is about gaining a rich, detailed understanding of a specific context or phenomenon, and you can often be more creative and flexible in designing your research. So you're going to look at some common types of the qualitative designs. They often have similar approaches in terms of data collection, but focus on different aspects when it comes to analyzing data. So there is this first type, which is the case study. So the case study is a detailed study of a specific subject, for example, a place, an event, an organization, among others. And data can be collected using a variety of sources and methods. And yet it also focuses on gaining a holistic understanding of the case. Like you're looking at that case study, like that case that you're studying, so you focus on that and you get everything about it almost. Then there is the ethnography. So ethnography is a detailed study of the culture of a specific community or group of people, and the data in this design is collected by extended immersion and close observation, and it focuses on describing and interpreting beliefs, conversions, social dynamics, among others. At this moment, we're just going through briefly, but we will have to look at each of these designs independently, and we shall look at them and you understand them well then. Then there is the ground theory. This aims to develop a theory inductively by systematically analyzing qualitative data. Then there is the phenomenology, which aims to understand a phenomenon or event by describing participants' lived experiences, so things like that. So as I've told you, we shall look at those method designs each independently, and you'll get more understand them further. So this third step, the third step in creating your research design is identifying your population and sampling methods. So your design should clearly define who or what your research will focus on and how we will go about choosing your participants or subjects. In research, there is what we call a population, and a population is the entire group that you want to draw conclusions about, while a sample is a small group of individuals you actually collect data from. Like for example, let's say you want to study an organization. Let's say you want to study an organization that includes 100 people. So the 100 people, that is the population, but then you may not manage to get information from all of them, and then let's say only get from 20. So the 20 is what we call the sample. What that number, that those people that you actually get the information from. So you have to define your population. So a population can be made of anything you want to study. It can be plants, animals, organizations, text, countries, among others. And in social sciences, it most often refers to a group of people. For example, will you focus on people from a specific demographic or region or background? So it depends. Are you interested in people with a certain job or medical condition, or users of a particular product? So that is, you're defining your population. So the more precise you define your population, the easier it will be to gather the respective sample, because you define the population. After defining the population, then you get the representative sample, like you know which people am I going to get information from, which population, then from that population you get the people who get information from, which is the sample. So if your let's have a population of an example of a population maybe. So if you're studying the effectiveness, let's say you're studying the effectiveness of an online teaching in Uganda, it would be very difficult to get samples that are representative of all the high schools or the high school students in the country. So to make the research more manageable and to draw more precise conclusions, you could focus on a narrower population. For example, let's say you can focus on senior 5 students in low income areas of Kampala. You get something like that. So you're defining your population. So that is an example of population. Then looking at sampling methods, what you have to know that even with like now we are going to look at sampling methods, having seen the rest. So now look at sampling methods, like because you said you identify your population and then the sampling methods. So having finished identifying your population, then you go to the sampling methods. So what you have to know that is even with a narrower, like a narrowly defined population, it is rarely possible to collect data from every individual. Instead, you collect data from a sample or from a few of those people, which we call a sample. So to select a sample, there are two main approaches. There is so among these approaches, we have the probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So the sampling method you use affects how confidently you can generalize your results to the population as a whole. So with the probability sampling, the sample is selected using random methods, and it is mainly used in quantitative research, and it also allows you to make strong statistical inferences about the population. But with non-probability sampling, samples are selected in a non-random way. It is used in both quantitative and qualitative research, and it is easier to achieve, but there are more risks of bias. So probability sampling is the most statistically valid option, but it's often difficult to achieve unless you're dealing with a very small and accessible population. But for practical reasons, many studies use non-probability sampling, but it's more important to be aware of the limitations and carefully consider potential biases. So you should always make an effort to gather a sample that is as representative as possible of the population. So having looked at non-probability and probability sampling, then those are the sampling methods we have. But there is also another method of data collection, which is case selection in qualitative research, because in some types of qualitative designs, sampling may not be relevant. Like for example, for a case study. For a case study, you don't have to do sampling because you're focusing on that case and you're giving it time. Like you want to, in case studying approach, there is no sampling. For example, let's say in an ethnography or a case study, ethnography and a case study, these are different types of research designs in qualitative approach. So for these two, your aim is to deeply understand the specific context and not to generalize to a population. With other methods, you're making the research, you get a sample. What you get from that sample, you generalize. You get, like, let's say I want to know, like, to see the effectiveness of online classes, and I get 100 students, 50 online, 50 person-to-person classes, and then at the end, from these 50, let's say my sample was taken from a school of 1,000 students. So the results I've got from these 50, this is just the sample. So I generalize it. If these ones in person-to-person classes perform better than those in online classes, then I can generalize and say these classes are better. I've used this small sample to generalize for the whole 1,000, so that's what it means. So which is not the case with ethnography and case study. With ethnography and case study, your aim is to deeply understand the specific context and not to generalize like it is done as I've illustrated. So meaning instead of sampling, you may simply aim to collect as much data as possible about the context you're studying. So in that case, sampling will not come in. For case of ethnography and case study, as we continue to look at these research designs in details as we shall proceed, you'll get it more clearer, but I guess you've got some clear picture of what I'm trying to mean. So in these types of designs, you still have to carefully consider your choices of case or community, like for ethnography and case study, because for ethnography, as we shall see, um, you will choose to be in that environment or community for a given period of time as you study their culture, let's say, because it is one of the things you can do using ethnography, studying the culture of those people. So you will not use sampling to study the culture of people. Instead, you have to choose a community and be in those people, and then you study their culture. So the same thing applies to a case study. So implying that you should have a clear rationale for why this particular case is suitable for answering a research question. Like even as you're selecting communities to study their culture, if let's say you want to study the culture of a certain, let's say you want to study the culture of Bagisu, so you have to choose which area should I go in to study the culture of the Bagisu. You get something like that. So that community you're selecting to go in, you should be careful as you select a community, because you should make sure that it is that particular community or case will be suitable for answering a research question. For example, you might choose a case study that reveals an unusual or neglected aspect of your research problem, or you might choose several very similar or very different cases in order to compare them. So something like that. Then step number 4 is that you have to choose your data collection methods. So data collection methods are all ways of directly measuring variables and gathering information in the field, and they allow you to gain first-hand knowledge and original insights for a research problem. So you can choose just one data collection method, or you can have more than one. So examples of data collection methods have survey methods. So survey methods allow you to collect data about opinions, behaviors, experiences, and characteristics by asking people directly. and the main two types of survey methods you can choose from are questionnaires and interviews. So questionnaires are more common in quantitative research, whereby you can distribute your questionnaires online, by phone, or by email, or in person. And the questionnaires usually offer closed questions with limited options. When I say closed questions, those are like questions whereby, okay, I can compare them to objective questions, like when you're studying and you're given objective questions whereby you have options to choose from. Such a questionnaire is a closed one, whereby someone has options to choose from. So something like that. And then consistent data can be collected from many people because the options are provided, so they choose from what is there. So you can get consistent data. Yet interviews, more common in qualitative research, they are conducted by researchers in person or by phone or by online, and usually allow participants to. So for interviews, usually participants answer in their own words. Like for example, you've seen interviews, someone is asked a question, then they give their own ideas. It's not like questionnaires where they choose from the given options. And then for this case, ideas can be explored in depth with a smaller group. So then there are observation methods. So observation methods, these allow you to collect data unobtrusively, whereby you observe characteristics, behaviors, or social interactions without relying on self-reporting. So observations can be conducted in real time, taking notes as you observe, or you might make audio-visual recordings for later analysis. And then for these ones, you have quantitative and qualitative observations. So for quantitative observations, you systematically count or measure, and the categories and criteria is determined in advance. Whereas for qualitative, you take detailed notes and writing. In which these descriptions and all relevant observations can be recorded. So other methods of data collection, like there are many other ways you might collect data depending on your field and topic. So there is media and communication, whereby you can whereby collecting a sample of texts, for example speeches, articles, social media posts, for data on culture, norms and narratives. And then there is psychology methods, whereby you can use technologies like neural imaging, eye tracking, or computer-based tasks to collect data on things like attention, emotional response, reaction time, and others. Then education methods. We have education methods whereby there is use of tests or assignments to collect data on knowledge and skills. And then there are physical science methods, whereby you use scientific instruments to collect data on things like weight, blood pressure, chemical composition, and things like that. And if you're not sure which method will work best for your research design, you can try reading some papers in your field to see what kinds of data collection methods they used. And then there is secondary data, whereby if you don't have enough time to collect data from populations you're interested in, you can also choose to use secondary data that other researchers already collected. For example, data sets from government surveys or previous studies on your topic. And with this raw data, you can do your own analysis to answer new research questions that weren't addressed by the original studies. Like for example, someone can make a survey, but when he's looking at something else, but when his data can answer another thing as well. So such a thing. So using secondary data can expand the scope of your research, as you may be able to access much larger and more varied samples than you would actually collect by yourself. However, it means you don't have any control over which variables to measure or how to measure them. So the conclusions you can draw from this kind of data may be limited. So things like that. So in this video we are going to stop here. We shall continue in the next video, and we shall be looking at the fifth step in coming up with a research design, which will be plan your data collection procedures. So we shall do that. We shall see that in the next video. Thank you for watching. Like, and you can share with friends that you think may need this, and you can also subscribe to support our page, our channel, and then to keep in touch. Thank you. Stay blessed.